Okay, so these questions can be challenging at first, but once you do a couple, you may realize that they're very similar to just the basics of solving equations. You have to first realize where you are. Okay, so we're going to look for, what do we have in our problem? Then we're going to figure out where we want to be. Okay, so like we're first, like number one, it's giving us the circumference, but then it's asking us for the area. So we're starting at circumference. We're taking what we know about circumference. We're writing the formula for circumference, solving for a variable that is related to the area, which we know is the radius, and then we can find the area by using the radius that we have discovered. So let's get started. If it says if the circumference equals 176 inches, what is the area of the circle? So we're given the circumference is 176 equals the formula, because we know that 176 equals the circumference, and circumference equals 2 pi r. Okay, now we're trying to find the radius, the r. Okay, so that means that we're going to have to solve for that. Everything else next to r has got to go. So we're going to divide by 2 on both sides. So we have 176 divided by 2, which is 88. The 2's cross out, so we're left with pi r. Now we can divide by pi, and 88 divided by pi in your calculator is 28. Okay, so we found that the radius is 28. So now we can use the radius to find the area. Okay, so we're going to plug it in over here. Area equals pi times r squared. And we know that the radius is 28. So 28 squared in your calculator is 784. 784 times pi is 249.68 inches squared. Okay, so that's all there is to it. You have to start where you are, like what is given to us, and figure out where it's asking you to get to. Okay, and then you find the relationship with the radius to help you get there. Okay, so number 2, it says if the area of the circle below is 94.9 inches squared, what is the circumference? Okay, so if the area is 94.9, and we know the area equals pi r squared, so we can go ahead and start solving for the radius. Okay, so we're going to first here divide by pi, because this exponent that's connected to that radius we can't deal with, because remember when we're, now I'm going to try to write on the screen as best as possible here. We're doing PEMDAS backwards, so please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So yikes. But I want you to have this visual. Whoa, that's crazy, yes. But we're going backwards. So addition and subtraction first. Okay, so we don't have that in our equation, so we can just move on from that. Now we have multiplication and division, so that's why we're dealing with the pi first. And then we're going to the exponents in parentheses. This is an exponent. The square is an exponent, so that goes last. Okay, so we're going to divide by pi first. 94.9 divided by pi is 30.25. I'm sorry, 30.22. And then that's equaling our r squared. Now this is really an 8th grade standard, but we're doing the very, very basics of it in 7th grade. So if you see an r squared and we got to get rid of that squared, we're going to do the inverse operation, like when we're solving for equations. So the inverse operation of a square is a square root. So we're going to take the square root of both sides, because if I take a square root over here, it's gone. It's just r. Okay, so now we got to take in our calculator. You look for the square root button. So make sure your calculator is completely clear. You find the radical button, which is what that symbol is called, the little check mark with the line on the top, and then you type in 30.22. And if you press enter, you'll get a number like 5.48. And so we rounded to the nearest tenths place, which is 5.5 equals the radius, if I can remember correctly. Okay, so we're taking our radius now that we found it and plugging it in to our circumference formula, because that's what our end goal is here. We want to get to the circumference of this circle. So circumference equals 2 times pi times the radius. So it would be 2 times pi times 5.5. So I took my coefficients here, 2 and times 5.5, and I found that's 11. So 11 times pi would give us our circumference of 34.54 inches. Okay, so now this is kind of a difficult thing. Basically, it's difficult if you're just kind of overwhelmed with like knowing where to start and then where do you need to end up. So if you need to, you can go ahead and replay this video for like a repeat. But the IXL sections and the work session task today, it just gives you a repetitive feel for this type of problem. Okay, so the more you do it, the easier it gets. But you just have to commit to it and just keep on practicing, and eventually, I promise you, will get it.